Welcome back to another explainer on the Foundry by Forge College. Look, in our last lesson, testing on Devnet, practical steps, you completely nailed the simulator. Your code looks rock solid, and frankly, no virtual users were harmed in the process. But all right, it's time to gear up for the real deal, the live commercial flight of Mainnet.
So, here is the million-dollar question. Are you truly ready for Mainnet? You might be thinking, yeah, absolutely, Devnet was a breeze. But remember, Devnet is a safe playground. You crash the plane, you hit reset, and it's really no big deal. Mainnet, totally different altitude. Out there, we are talking about real users, actual money, and the absolute wild chaos of unpredictable concurrency. The stakes are, well, they're incredibly high.
Here's our flight plan for today. We're going to cover the layered safety model, draft your actual readiness checklist, dive into rollbacks and staged rollouts, walk through a real-world SPL token example, and finally, get you cleared for mainnet takeoff.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the layered safety model, and we'll use an airport pre-flight analogy to make this super clear.
We can beautifully map the strict, life-saving rules of commercial aviation directly onto our blockchain deployments. Think about it. Your Devnet tests? They're basically just ground crew inspections. Staging acts as your pre-flight taxi. Your stakeholder comms serve as air traffic control, and production observability is your in-flight monitoring. This mental model is absolutely crucial because it forces us to separate what's just been tested from what is actively managed live.
And this brings us to the golden rules of layered safety. Rule 1, literally never skip a layer just because the last one looked plain. Rule 2, you've got to define strict acceptance criteria to move to the next layer. You wouldn't just bypass air traffic control because the engine sounded sweet on the tarmac, right? Same thing here. Every single stage needs a definitive hard pass or fail.
Moving on to Section 2, drafting your readiness checklist. We're taking this from abstract findings straight into concrete action.
Here are the first 4 steps of this workflow. 1. Gather and catalog evidence. 2. Classify and score your risks. 3. Define your mitigations and criteria. And 4. Assign owners and timelines. I kind of can't stress this enough. Cataloging your Devnet bugs and putting a specific name next to them creates undeniable accountability. When the pressure's on, there's absolutely no room for, wait, I thought you were fixing that?
So how do we actually prioritize? Well, you've got to weigh likelihood against impact across functional, operational, and economic risks. For instance, an intermittent state corruption bug has a totally catastrophic impact, so you have to tackle that way before a frequent but pretty harmless RPC retry bug. It is all about strategic prioritization.
Which brings us to a super important concept, acceptance criteria. This is a measurable condition that must be met before moving forward. Saying, looks good to me, absolutely does not fly in production. Your mitigation needs a hard metric, like mandating that an error rate must stay below a 0.1% threshold during a massive stress test. You are taking abstract risk and turning it into a concrete pass or fail metric.
Up next, Section 3, rollbacks and staged rollouts. Because let's be real, we need to prepare for contingencies.
Even with the perfect checklist, things go sideways. So here are the final 3 phases. Step 5, prep, rollback, and escalation plans. 6, stage the release. And 7, get that final sign-off. Listen, deploying to Mainnet without a predefined rollback plan is wild. It's literally like jumping out of an airplane and realizing halfway down you didn't pack a parachute. Just don't do it. One of the smartest ways to stage your release is a canary deployment. This means routing just a tiny fraction of live traffic to validate stability before you ramp everything up. Going back to our airplane analogy, it's like taxiing down the runway and revving the engine a bit before committing to full takeoff. If an engine sputters, you've minimized the blast radius. But what if that canary starts looking a little unwell? That's where your rollback plan kicks in. This dictates the exact sequence, the required upgrade authority, and the communication strategy to completely abort a release. Who has the authority to hit the big red button? Which program ID reverts the state? How do we tell the community? Having this documented removes all the panic-induced guesswork.
All right, Section 4. Let's look at a real-world SPL token example to see the simulation in action.
Picture this. Your simulated SPL-style token worked beautifully in normal tests. But then you run a massive load test, and boom, 2 nasty surprises. First, serialization errors on concurrent mints. That's a massive functional risk. Second, elevated RPC latency, which is a severe operational risk.
Under pressure, the code is basically panicking and lagging.
Now, here's where the magic happens. We transform those terrifying bugs into measurable gates owned by specific people. Concurrency bug, assigned to the backend lead with a strict 0% reproduction rate at 10,000 simulated transactions. Latency issue, handed to ops, demanding an error rate below 0.5% during a canary. This exact kind of discipline is what we emphasize in the advanced programs at Forge College. It's how the pros do it.
And check out this operational control. 48 hours. That's your canary observation window. You purposefully enforce a low transaction per second cap on new instructions for 2 whole days. You're essentially watching the program in its natural habitat in the wild without risking the entire network.
All this rigorous work distills into your final artifact. Now, this checklist shouldn't be the length of a novel. It's a lightweight, 1 to 2 page evidence wrapper. It simply proves the reproduction report is attached, tests pass at scale, the canary was observed, keys are rotated, and sign-offs are complete. Once your owners sign it, boom, you have a rock-solid, defensible audit trail.
Finally, Section 5, cleared for mainnet takeoff. Let's wrap up this briefing. Let's quickly recap our flight rules. Number 1, use the layered safety model. Treat your deployments like commercial flights. Number 2, demand measurable acceptance criteria. We want hard data, not just opinions. And number 3, always pair rollouts with rollback plans. No parachutes, no jump. So, I'll leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on.
What actually happens when your canary sings in production? When the alarms start blaring, what is your next move? Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle in our next lesson on monitoring basics and compliance. Until then, make sure to visit forge.college to master the rest of your Web3 journey and check out our other courses. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer. Stay safe out there on Mainnet, and I'll catch you next time.